Okay, so you are here for another episode of Biters, and we are talking about the mid-season finale. I am so happy to welcome Jeff and Kirk back to the show.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Yo.
It's weird
So-
being it's weird being on this side of the I guess the table, because usually it's me calling it out and running everything, and we're just guests now.
But you have to tell everyone the real truth, which is that you got stuck recording tonight.
We go to bring this all together, and Kirk and I are excited about coming back. Haven't done the show in a while. We come back, and well, Diane can't get her.
Put us to work, girl. Put us to work.
Exactly.
I'm so glad that you guys are back. I know the fans are really looking forward to it. There's been good feedback about having you guys come back on. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I don't know if you listened last week, but my little sister actually threw me some shade, man. She was like, yeah, that Diane's okay, but I really miss Kirk.
Well, I saw the numbers since we left. You're actually up to like 12 listeners now. Like, so
you're growing.
Yeah.
No.
I think so.
So I watched the Facebook page, and it seems like we lose one every week. So I don't know that we're growing. We're probably just keeping some balance.
Well,
that's Portugal. Yeah, you can't.
There you go.
You've been in transition too.
I do get frequent notices that our post is doing really well in India, and I should pay more to let Facebook promote it. So there you go.
That's Jeff's fault. He has this relationship with India.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, we may have to talk about that more at some point.
Well, I keep telling. So a couple years ago, they at New York Comic Con, these people came by promoting the Mumbai comic book convention, and I was like,
I remember this.
Remember this?
Yeah.
But I was intrigued because I know that there's how many people are. What's the population of India? Like 75 million, right? And
right.
And
I just call that a lot.
So, and there are a lot of comic book readers, a lot of comic book fans, and for years I've been talking with Kirk about. I think that I want to find a translator and translate Z-Girl into.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah, because there's a lot of the mythology and stuff that goes on in the book that I think would have an attraction in India. So this girl comes to the table and she says, we're putting on this like the first ever Mumbai convention, and I'm like, oh yeah, well, I'm sure the cost of the plane and the hotel, I had to sell, I had to rent out one of my kids to pay for San Diego, a couple of years ago. And she was like, no, it's the hotel, the convention fees, like all in, it was like $300 or something. It was ridiculously cheap. And I told Kirk, and Kirk's just like, yeah, I'm not touching that one with the 10-foot pole. Because
Jeff and I'd land over there. We'd end up being in some call service bank, where we're having to do customer service, answering the phones,
Kirk's...
Okay, so here's the deal, Kirk. You can stay in America. Jeff, if you ever need somebody to go to Mumbai with you, I'm there.
Done. Kirk's just worried about getting dysentery, and he doesn't think they've got Purell over there. So
I'd have to bring a second plane just to carry all my Purell.
Remember, I have prescriptive authority, so we're in good shape.
Oh, nice.
You're gonna need it over there for the open sewers. India, man. No, I have no desire to go to India.
I just have a funny feeling that is not going to happen.
Not
India
going to happen.
Just off the map.
I was too scarred at a young age. I went to Africa for a year when I was about 10.
Oh, really?
We lived in Nigeria, West Africa, and yeah, that's was not my finest memories of my childhood.
This is why Kirk stays within an hour radius of Fairfield, Connecticut.
That's right.
So Moose Pass, Alaska, or Willow, Alaska is just never happening either.
No, Alaska's part of the U.S. I'm fine. I'm sure I can get everything I need to get there. Just maybe have to drive a little bit.
I don't know. I'd say I've got more patience with outhouses than bathrooms.
Oh,
jeez.
There you go.
Okay.
So,
well, you just lost me.
Do you want to give us a quick update on how things are going? I know, Kirk, that you're going to Walker Stalker Con New York this weekend.
I am going to Walker Stalker.
And you guys have it.
Say what?
And you guys have a new arc going on with Z-Girl.
Well, we're working on a new arc. We did it.
You still there?
Yep.
Yep. Jeff, you still there?
No, I'm still here. I think Diane, you've done this before, right?
I'm following your lead, man.
Sally just fell off the chair. Anyway, yeah, we're working on a new arc, and then we finished a short story that we did for New York Comic Con, and
cool.
so I'll have that at Walker Stalker Con, and of course all my my tribute art, and that starts tomorrow.
And
So-
Kirk will have
The post.
he'll have a couple of Z-Girl figures too, if
Yeah.
for
Awesome.
actual purchase.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Of course, it'll. If Biters is running on the same schedule that it did with Jeff and I, they'll be hearing this about a week after the show. So
we're a little better, but they're probably going to get the update about buying Z Girl after you've already gone back home. So mid-season finale, what'd you guys think?
Well, first of all, thanks for having us back on.
Oh my God.
It's great
Anytime.
to be back. It's a lot of fun.
Anytime.
You know, it's a lot of work, and you know, there's a lot of stuff has moved in to fill the time. So we're both pretty busy with other stuff, but there are certainly things we miss about it.
I bet.
But
Well,
I
we
also-
miss you.
But I also wanted to say that Diane, you've been doing a great job with it, and it's great to hear the person that took over for us to have as much enthusiasm and excitement about the
Amen.
show as we had. So
Yep, totally agree.
keep doing what you're doing,
Keep
Thank
on
you
keeping
very
on,
much.
girl. Keep on
It
keeping
is.
on.
It's great fun. I really enjoy it.
and you are fierce with the Facebook postings. Goodness, man.
It's too much misspent time. I should probably be doing other things, but
No, it's all good. It's all good.
No, it's all good. It's great. It's good. It's funny. She'll message me. Hey, you didn't post your newest tribute art. Put that up on Biters. I'm like, sorry, mom. Yeah, I'll get right on it, mom.
I really did love the Cherokee Rose. I thought that was really cool.
And I wanted to put it coming out of his ass, but I figured I'd just put it out his back. It was hard to tell in the actual shot when he's lying on the ground where it's growing out of. But
I am just having visions of all of the Daryl fans. I don't know. My brain is going to bad places, man. Bad places.
yeah, that was my favorite part of that. I mean, that was a good episode. I liked that episode a lot. A lot of people had problems with it, but I know you did, Diane. But,
yeah, which was a surprise for me because
but I loved that episode. But man, that Swamp Thing zombie was just the cat's meow.
That thing was cool.
Yeah.
that was definitely way better than the plastic wrap zombies, I have to say.
Well, the ones in the glass, that was
Yeah.
I thought that was cool. You didn't think that was
Did you
cool?
really?
Oh yeah,
There was-
they were caught in the fire and the glass melted and they just like freaking were like entombed in it. That was awesome.
There were some people who seriously said that that it looked like that girl just threw herself into those zombies, and
Yeah.
I pretty much bought that. I agree with that.
Yeah. That was the worst trip, fall, whatever that was, like you've ever seen.
Oh, I'm having an insulin shock. Ah, I'm feeling a little dizzy. Let me put my face next to this chomping zombie.
Hey, so it's Thursday. So Diane, did you get numbers for this episode? I wanted to
So I have.
Go ahead.
I do. I have numbers for Sunday. I don't have the live +3 yet, but let's go ahead and go into those. So it looks like there were 14 million viewers on Sunday night, and that's actually considered higher. They called it spiking. It's the viewership spiked, but it's actually down 5% from last year's mid-season finale.
Okay.
But 5%, 0.8 million people. So we're still talking 14 million people watching the mid-season finale of a 6-year-old show.
Right.
And is that the +3 numbers?
It's not the +3. It's just for Sunday. So one of the points that was made in the article that I read is that on Sunday night, The Walking Dead was up against the Broncos versus the Patriots.
Yep.
So they actually, there's going to be a big spike in the numbers again when we look at live +3.
Yeah.
Thank God the Broncos won.
I have to say, I agree. I am not a Tom Brady fan.
All right. I guess I am out of this. I'm done. I'll talk to you guys at the end of the next season.
Jeff likes cheaters.
Oh Jesus! Here we go.
I will say one thing, Jeff. So the Broncos have the wimpiest frickin' horse ever.
Yeah.
I mean, their real horse that runs up and down the football field is
Yeah.
an Arab. It's like a little tiny graceful horse that has nothing to do whatsoever with a Bronco. So, just saying.
All right.
I'm no Broncos fan, trust me.
So the ratings were still really good. And, you know, one of the points that I made with Brian a couple of weeks ago is that we're just continuing to see the ratings grow generally, which is pretty cool. The numbers. I just think it's amazing that this show is as old as it is, and it's struggled a little bit over the last couple of episodes, and it's still growing, which I think is cool.
Well, I also think that when you get to the big event of this season is what everybody knows is coming at the end of the season. And I think that when Negan makes his appearance, and those of us who've read the comic book and we know who Negan is and we got all that familiarity, we're all excited about it. People who only heard about Negan through people like Kirk and I talking about it because of the comic. Once the Negan phenomenon catches on, then I think you're going to get more people because he's such a dynamic and such a captivating character, more so than the Governor was. So I think that that's going to be a big draw to the show.
I agree, but they've got to do it successfully. I mean, they could easily. I mean, it's hard to believe that they screwed up the Governor the way that they did.
Yeah, sure.
If you ask me, I mean, granted, I can see why they didn't go, full on with the comic, like the comic version, but at the same time, they in a lot of ways they dropped the ball with that character. Parts of what make Negan so wild and so awesome may also be difficult for them to bring to the screen, like the way he talks.
He is my spiritual kindred when it comes to the way that he talks. So I'm trying to figure out how they're going to do that,
Yeah. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting how they get around that.
So for those of you who are listening who don't know who Negan is, Kirk's not referring to Negan talking with a lisp. More Negan F-bombs like an admiral. He's like really good at it. So
very good at it.
Skill.
Yeah,
it is part of his skill set, as Eugene would say.
Yeah.
Eugene, the lockpicker.
Right.
Would have known.
Yeah.
Did you guys happen to hear the Walking Dead cast this week?
I did not, but I saw your post about it, and they had the guy on that's going to be Negan, right?
They didn't actually have an interview with him on the Walking Dead cast, but they played part of an interview from a con that he was at.
Okay, got it.
And he actually sounds like he really gets Negan. It sounds like he's a comic book fan. It sounds like he is really excited about Negan because of the way that Negan was portrayed in the comic book. So I think that he's got the potential to do this right.
Well, I love Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I think every role that he's in, I think he's a really good actor, and he does really well with the roles. It's going to be interesting to see him in because I guess the roles I've normally seen him in, he's the good guy. So it's going to be interesting to see him as this, as Negan.
As a sociopath.
Yeah.
I mean, really, truly.
See, for me, it's not hard to see. I think he's a good choice, and I don't have trouble making that reach because I don't recall seeing him in anything except Watchmen. And his portrayal of the comedian was a bit sociopathic, and I thought was probably the highlight of that movie was that character.
That movie is definitely on my must-watch again list because I'm not that familiar with Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I don't have cable. I don't watch a lot of TV outside of The Walking Dead, and now I'm totally addicted to The Man in the High Castle.
That's a great show.
Yeah, it's a great show. But anyway, so I don't have familiarity with him, but I can totally see Negan when I look at him, and just the way that he talked in that little snippet of that interview, I think he's going to be great.
Awesome. I hope so. Do you guys think that the introduction of him will be similar to what we just saw at the end of this episode, with the little extra minute at the end, or do you think that it'll be the famous, kneeling scene?
I'm thinking it's going to be comic book episode or comic book segment 100. I think that's how we're going to meet Negan.
So that's the pullover with everyone on their knees scene, right?
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jeff? Do you think we're going to see him as just an afterthought, or do you think he's going to be the central focus of the finale?
I'm trying to couch my response here because I don't want to give too much away of the scene from the comic. But let's just say that I want him, as you said, the kneeling thing, and it's, kind of confusion on everybody's faces, and then he comes in from off screen carrying Lucille with his baseball bat,
right?
And just as like the bat's coming back, they should cut the black.
That would be perfect.
I hate you.
Oh my God, that would just be. I just gave myself chills. Scott Gimple, call me. I can write that. I'll write that episode. But that's what I think that's what it should be. It shouldn't just be see him and real quick. We just introduce him like you said, like issue 100, and then just break it from there and leave everybody sitting on the edge of their seat for what's the hiatus? 6 months. So.
I think that would be incredible. I hope they do that.
So we'll see. And I've got a prediction about that.
Do you want to say a prediction for the end, or do you want to go for it?
Well, we'll talk about this, and then we'll do predictions at the end.
Okay.
It doesn't really matter because none of my predictions have ever been right anyway. So.
Well, I don't know if you saw our predictions, but our body count was way off from last week. So. So this episode was called Start to Finish. It was written by Matthew Negrete. Am I saying his name right?
I think we call him Negrete. Sorry, Matthew. We're close.
Nothing personal.
You got to come on and do an interview. You have to correct us.
There you go.
So he is responsible for 8 other episodes of The Walking Dead, including Indifference, Inmates, Slabtown. He was on a bunch of really good episodes, and he's got an upcoming episode, episode 11 of this season.
He did Slabtown?
He did Slabtown, which I really liked. I liked that arc. I know that was not really popular with a lot of people, but he also did Consumed, which was the one with Daryl and...
I love that one.
And Carol. Yeah, I really love that one, too.
Who directed?
Michael Straczynski.
Yeah.
Straczynski, yeah.
Straczynski, there you go. And he directed The Grove, Slabtown, Try, this episode, and then he's also directing the one that Matthew is writing, 611. So
that's why this is so confusing because, well, first of all, let's put some numbers to it. Kirk, what's the headshots that you gave us, or whatever you want to?
I gave it 3.8 ant-infested cookies.
God damn it! That was going to be mine. I want to.
That's what you get for letting me go first.
Diane, what was yours?
Mine was 3 out of 5 gut-soaked ponchos.
Gut-soaked ponchos.
Sweet.
Which is rare because I usually rate a lot more like Kirk, but yeah, we'll get there. What'd you say?
3.8 is low for me.
Right? It is low.
Yes.
Oh man.
Hey, don't be making it up.
Well, I had it and you took away. It was the ant cookies.
Oh. I was gonna do green balloons, but
oh my gosh.
Like 99 red balloons.
All right. Well, Kirk took mine, and I won't bore everybody listening. So I'm just gonna go with my number was 2.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't feel so bad.
So my point is that
how about 2 copies of Tiny Tim's
tulips? There you go. We interrupted your point.
That's the best part of the show.
It's just like old times.
Just like old times.
No, but it for me, having Matthew Negrete writing and Straczynski doing the directing it, these guys they've done great episodes before, and this episode it didn't feel
not great.
I agree. I don't think it was up to par.
It was certainly not it wasn't a bad episode, but it certainly was not a mid-season finale. This is not what you go out on for, when do they come back? End of February?
Yeah.
Valentine's Day, actually.
Okay. Oh, that's because that's what you do. You come back on Valentine's Day with the undead.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah, this just wasn't an episode that you. So it surprises me that you had such strength in those two positions, especially the writing. And as we talk about this, I'll talk about problems that I had with the writing and certain things that I just thought that they really just dropped the ball. They could have really made this a much more compelling episode with some characters.
So what do you think about the decision to make it 60 minutes instead of 90? Because I feel like that was part of the problem.
Well, if you look at one of the things I had with the ending was when they're walking out of the house. What's the little kid's name?
Sam.
When they come walking out, right, and they're all goried up and they're sliding through. There was a very Invasion of the Body Snatchers moment. Remember the scene in Invasion of the Body Snatchers where they're like sneaking through the crowd and they're the guy and the woman, they're just kind of blending in. Then all of a sudden she sees that dog with a human face on it and she screams, and then everybody like turns and looks at her and they're like toast. So for me, that it reminded me of that with Sam going, "Mom, Mom." But it just was truncated. Like he says her name and then we cut to into the Badlands lead in, and it just felt so it felt very, very truncated for me. But going to 90 minutes, man, I don't know what you would have done for 30 more minutes, because you kind of walked and treaded water for 60 or 40, however long an episode is. So I'm not really sure what you would have done for the other half hour.
Do you think they could have taken that half an hour and explored some of that stuff and really made it a meaty mid-season finale, though? Or maybe some of the stuff that's on the cutting room floor could have ended up making it a better episode.
So that's the question: is what's on the floor? Like, what did they leave behind?
Mm-hmm.
Here's why I don't think 90 minutes would have made a difference here. If anything, it could have made it worse.
Exactly.
There is that.
And here's why, in my opinion. They obviously made the decision that the battle sequence of the book's version of this, which is No Way Out, I think is the storyline that we're following now. The final ultimate battle sequence with the zombie horde. They obviously decided that's going to be the opener for the second half.
Mm-hmm.
So once they made that decision, then, that really limited, what they were going to do in this episode in terms of action and drama and deaths and things like that. So, I don't think, if 90 minutes would have allowed them to conclude that would have been great, but I don't think they would have, because I think from a storytelling point of view, they've decided to move that and tell that part of the story in the second half, in the beginning of the second half. For me, that's a big mistake, but because we spent the whole first half of the season, 8 episodes that basically have been about the horde getting to Alexandria and crashing in on them. And it took 8 episodes to get that to this point. Now with them there and invading, you want, I want to say closure, but for
you want
me,
some resolution.
I wanted the confrontation. The whole first half of the season has been about trying to either avoid or balance, or mainly avoid this confrontation. They wanted to keep the horde away, but then they had the walls and, and then boom, no longer can you hide it. You've got to confront this horde, and it's on the worst possible scenario. And then we don't get it.
Right.
To me, it was like a build up for 8 episodes that then is going to be, now you got to wait until, the second half.
Right.
So that's why I think it was a mistake. And I agree with Jeff that they, when they're standing out there and you start to hear them say, "Mom," it's like, it was just hard to have that be where it ended, and I don't think adding 90 minutes, if that was their plan, would have made it any better.
So going into that being the end, and I know I'm kind of departing from the format here, but I really felt like the end was actually what was plugged into the Badlands. I really felt like it would have been just fine for them to end with the season, or with the scene from Daryl, Abe, and Sasha. I mean, that was actually the ending.
Yeah, and yeah, why make it after the credits? I didn't understand that.
A tragic ploy to get us all to watch Into the Badlands.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just
And who
like
turned
was it was last week where they had the message
Glenn.
from Glenn,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And who turned into the Badlands off as soon as it was done? I know I did.
I haven't watched any of it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably everybody.
Yeah, they really are. The
go
other thing they've done is they've screwed up The Talking Dead.
Right, by putting it off
I
by
mean,
an hour.
I always would just sit and watch The Talking Dead right after The Walking Dead, and it just made so much sense. You know, you're still reeling from the episode, and you could just tell too that it was like in the announcements, you know, by what's his
Chris Hardwick.
Chris Hardwick.
Yeah.
You could tell. I could tell he was like not annoyed, but like a little bit like, you know, this is screwy that I got to tell you to come back in an hour. You know what I mean?
Well, and you know, I don't know if you watched this week's Talking Dead, but Tova Feldshuh was so great. It would have been really nice to have that transition immediately from the episode.
No, it's too late now for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know? I don't sit for an hour afterwards. I mean, there's other things start to happen, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Mostly like time to go to bed for us old people.
No, for you East Coast people.
East Coast old people. But everybody out here is old.
You're not in Florida, for heaven's sake.
That's true.
So do you guys want to talk a little bit about the title before we go into the good, the bad, and the ugly?
Sure.
So the title was Start to Finish. I mean, it was obviously a reference to Deanna saying that about she was able to live life the way that she wanted to from start to finish.
Yeah.
But I also felt like maybe it was a reference to the time frame that the first 8 episodes happened in.
Yes, I agree.
That was the only other thing that I really came up with aside from the obvious statement from Deanna.
Yeah, I mean, I think Deanna's statement about herself, but also the idea that she started it, Rick's got to finish it.
Oh,
you know,
that's
kind of, I mean, the episode really also was about the handoff, you know, between the two of them, you know, that she believed in him, that he needed to believe in Alexandria, and he couldn't just let it go. And he had to start, you know, caring about everybody that's inside those walls, not just his people. And that transition to being the leader was, you know, she was kind of passing the baton. So she started the whole Alexandria. He's going to have to finish it. That's what I took it as. But then I also think in a literal way, we started with the zombie horde and now we're finishing with the zombie horde.
Oh, okay. I like that too.
You know, I mean, the whole season opens up with them at the quarry with the horde, you know what I mean? And now it ends with them standing in the middle of that horde. So start to finish.
Yeah, I was glomming on to the passing of the torch.
Mm-hmm. Well, should we launch into the good? Is there any good?
Dead silence. Yeah. Absolutely. No, there's good. There's always good, man. Walking Dead rocks. Even when it sucks, it rocks.
You take it, Kurt.
All right, you lead off then.
Oh, in that case, I thought the opening scene obviously was so cool. The music was freaking off the hook nuts. The ants eating the cookie, you know, is just a sick, great metaphor for the, you know, impending zombie attack. I thought that was just I love that they've gotten in the last year or so really artful about their opening segments, you know. I'd love to see more of that throughout the episode, but still, I'll take it where I can get it, you know? So that was one of my big goods. There's a cool, I thought, tip of the hat. You were asking about callbacks. I guess this would be a callback, but when Deanna says she's going to kill herself and she's like turning into the zombie or whatever, I think, and given Nicotero's background and is always trying to bring in callbacks to famous horror movies and also famous zombie movies, to me, it was reminding me a lot of the famous end sequence in Dawn of the Dead, Romero's Dawn of the Dead, when at the very end, the zombies are crashing into the room and they're trying to get out to escape to a helicopter, and the girl goes up and the guy's like wounded and he's like, I don't have the heart for it anymore, and he just puts the gun to his head. And it's I think it's the same pistol. I think it's the same kind of pistol. And then at the last minute when they're coming in,
really?
he turns the pistol and starts shooting them and fighting. Now he ends up going up the ladder and getting on the helicopter. But in this, she just, it's still the scene where, the emphasis is that she decides to go out fighting instead of killing herself, which I thought was a cool callback to that scene.
I gotta ask you, did you count the number of bullets? I did. I literally sat there and counted to make sure that to see whether or not she was emptying her revolver.
Well, that's cool. That's cool.
and she did. She 6 shots. So
yeah. I didn't get the whole scream. I didn't think the whole scream at the end was, but I guess that was supposed to kind of be symbolic of her rage and defiance and jumping into the pool of them. I thought another really good sequence of this episode was Carl being a badass and taking Ron down in the garage. I was glad to see that, he's really starting to act like a kid who's grown up in the apocalypse. He's smart and seasoned. He kind of anticipated that this was, that Ron was going to do this. He wasn't being stupid. You know what I mean? And then he takes the gun away from him, but yet he shows him mercy. And, it just really, his character has just really started to mature. And I thought that was an excellent part of the episode. You guys can jump in here at any time.
Well, so I will tell you that you definitely took one of my goods by talking about the cold open. I thought the symbolism of the ants as compared to the zombies was really cool. I agree. And Sam's drawing in the cold open. Did you catch that?
Trying to remember. He was drawing 2 zombies, right?
He was drawing a picture of himself tied to a tree with monsters coming at him. So he was illustrating Carol's threat to him.
Yeah.
So that was super cool.
That's cool. That is cool. I loved the confrontation with Carol and Morgan. I thought that, the clash, the ultimate clash of the 2 different worldviews, was really what that represented for me. I also thought that in this episode, Carol, last week, I think she says to Sam, I think it's the last episode, if not then the one before, you have to kill not to be a monster.
Right.
Which is crazy talk, if you ask me. And then she says in this one, I'll kill you to stop him from killing.
Right.
Which is more crazy talk, which is, to me, I think the writers are trying to say that she's kind of going too far to one side of, this kind of like, just kill anything that's a potential threat in the way. There's no remorse, no possible redemption or anything for anybody. And then of course Morgan, being the other school of thought, is that now life is even more precious than it's ever been. We have to preserve it and we have to try and bring people back. But that's just as potentially destructive. I mean, obviously the stupid keeping the wolf alive, and now he's paying the price for it. He let those other wolves go and almost killed Rick as a result. You could potentially put the whole blame for the wolves attacking the compound on Morgan's lap, if you ask me. So, I think they're also saying that kind of worldview is just as potentially damaging, that the real answer to how to survive in this world is somewhere in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
I would guess more like a Glenn, you know what I mean? Someone, still believes in people, still tries to do the right thing, but also understands that sometimes you're going to have to kill people, even though I don't think he's ever killed anybody in cold blood.
They made a point of saying that in the last episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so that was a good. And then I kind of already talked about the fact that, Rick kind of finally realizes that everyone inside the walls is now, his people, and that, he had to make that jump. And I think he kind of does finally in this episode. And, that I thought was good. Those were my goods.
Jeff, what about you?
So you guys have already talked about that opening with the kid who is clearly a runaway from the Overlook Hotel and The Shining. Holy cow, was that kid creepy?
He is. Well, the haircut doesn't help.
Oh my gosh, the haircut, the look, and
the way they distorted the sound.
Yes.
When he was hearing things.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Didn't they do that with somebody else?
I think they did it with Morgan. I think they did that in the Morgan episode, didn't they?
What?
Where
some distortion of sound or perception.
When he's listening, it's like he's listening underwater. Like Diane
Yeah,
said.
yeah. They did that. They did it with Morgan a little bit. They also did it with Nicholas when he was starting to
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So one of the things as the show was going on, and as I was seeing more of Sam, and Sam just being kooky and getting weirder and weirder as it went on. So people who've read the comic book and know the thing with Carl, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I think that throughout this episode, Ron, the conflict between Ron and Carl was going on, and I don't know about you guys, but I was on the edge of my seat going, is this the mid-season finale thing that's going to happen?
I was really hoping.
Yeah, exactly.
It's what it needed.
So they're in the garage, and it was like, oh my god, is this gonna be it? Is this gonna be it? No, it's not gonna be it. And then later on, there was another time, and then as I'm watching this, I'm like, you know what? This is crazy prediction, but I think it's a head fake, and the head fake is that it's going to come from Strange Sam, because he's just going to be weirded out by something and get a gun and just pull the trigger wildly. So that's my thing, is that I don't think it's going to be Ron who does the thing.
We're so funny. We all have to talk in code now.
I know.
Did we used to do that, or did we just say spoilers and then let people? Then I don't remember.
I don't know.
You guys are pretty good about alerting people to spoilers.
I think we also said that if you don't know what's going on in the comics, it was like 100 and something issues ago. So
yeah,
right.
I go to sleep with a clear conscience if I let something slip. Let's see okay. So there are a lot of people, and I was looking at some of the notes. I think somebody made a comment that they didn't like it. We'll talk about it at some point. But I actually like the fact that Carl stood up for Ron, or covered for Ron. Afterwards when they were after the garage scene, and Rick's like,
when they were trying to keep the zombies from coming in.
Yeah. What happened out there? And it was just we were fighting those guys, and it's all good. And I really like that. And like you said, Kirk, the Carl's character in this episode was really, I think it's something that we've wanted that character to be for a long time.
Right.
Matching up, more aligning with the comic book too.
Yeah.
Because that's how he is there. And it's how old is he supposed to be now?
So I've been rereading this comic book arc.
Right?
He's like still a little guy in this arc in the comic book.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's because in the comic there's a time jump after that.
Right.
Not after that, but at some point, yeah.
Well, and of course we've got the problem with that whole thing called adolescence with your main actors, which is fine because they'll probably just pull a Walt and make them disappear, like in Lost, and then. Didn't I used to have a son somewhere? Just keep going.
That was messed up when they brought him back and he was like 6 foot tall.
Yeah.
That was messed up.
Here's the thing, though. If the thing happens with Carl, they can just put him in a coma for a few months and make it up that way.
That's true. So I like that. I like that scene with Ron. And I also like too is that he doesn't beat around the bush when it comes to talking about Ron's dad. And Ron's like, well, your dad.
Absolutely.
Your dad's an a-hole, and he's like, really? Pot kettle, So
yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. That's what I dug about it. Was he just like he wasn't like he didn't get like crumble when Ron said that. Instead, he just turned around and was like, yeah, and your dad too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
but also he just like he was smart. He anticipated that the guy was going to do it. Then he like took the gun away from him.
Yep.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And said, okay, now, you can't handle this gun. You're not ready for this. Yep. You know what I mean? That was cool, man.
So let's see, I had those two. And then the only other thing, I had to struggle to find stuff. So I think I'll go with Bear McCreary had good music.
I actually made a note that there was one point early on where the music was kind of throbbing and building, and I thought, okay, this is good. This is perfect for this scene.
Yeah.
So, my good.
He's
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay,
so my
yours.
good, like I talked about, the cold open. I also really like the visual image of the zombies coming up by the pond. Remember when we saw that pond with the red balloon floating up early on when we saw Alexandria? So this time we have the zombies just kind of coming up, funneling along that pathway by the pond, and I thought that was a really cool image. I've got to say one of my favorite goods was Eugene and being the intrepid gamer. Lockpicking is in my skill set.
Yeah.
I just thought that was very, very funny. It was a small thing, but I enjoyed it. The other thing is I'm just looking back and I took tons of notes and building on what you said, Jeff, the whole thing about Sam, I just kept thinking this kid is going to lose it. Yeah. This kid is going to freak out. And I think you're right. I mean, something is going to happen where we're going to see his freak out in the opener. I don't know if he's going to.
You know what they should have done? It's fucking
but...
simple. You know what they should have done? They should have held Judith out and stuck Sam under the freaking poncho. They put Judith underneath Carl's poncho.
Yeah.
They should have put Sam underneath one of the ponchos, under Jesse's poncho or something, and then just give the baby a gun. That baby's ready to rock.
Yeah.
So my goods are pretty well covered. I'm going to just read Brian's good here. So he posted on the Facebook page since he couldn't be here tonight for the time that we were all together. He said that his rating for the mid-season finale was 3 out of 5 terrible CGI balloons. I'm grading it harsh because it was indeed a mid-season finale, so bear with me. He said is good. Walker, Carnage, and Confusion. Totally dig it back to season 1 where the cast was looking out windows and seeing nothing but walkers flooding the streets of a good-looking and well-kept neighborhood. It gave me that new zombocalypse feeling all over again. Things aren't going to plan, and the separated crews are going to have to think on their feet. Zombiflage makes its needed return. Wouldn't you like to use this trick more often? So those were Brian's goods. And I like that. I thought the callback to Guts was really nice with them using the zombie camouflage again.
They've made a lot of callbacks to Guts in this half of the season.
Well, and
there were lots of conversations between Rick and Glenn and stuff like that as well that were called back. The whole thing about also getting saved. There's a scene in Guts where he says, I guess it's after he saves Rick, and Rick says, "Why did you come back and save me?" And Glenn's like, "Well, I guess like karma. I'm hoping that if I ever find myself in that kind of a situation, somebody will do that for me." And then of course we get him trapped underneath there, and Enid is the one that bails him out. So there was lots of callbacks to that episode.
And I want to say actually that I think either the writer or the director, one of them worked on Guts.
Yeah,
because one of them has been with the series as either it was the director. So Michael Stratsimas or Satsimas, whatever, he has been on the show since season 1, and he started out working as a director of photography. So he actually had worked on Guts, if I remember correctly.
I think there should be a rule, and that rule should be that no season opener or mid-season finale or season finale should be done by anybody but either Scott Gimple or
Nicotero. In fact, I was reading that Nicotero was doing the opener for the second half of the season, and it was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, I always get nervous when it's not one of them guys driving a major episode. I have a question. Why not? And I seem to remember in the book that the No Way Out, this whole sequence, took place at night. Why did they have it at day? I wonder, because I think it would have been more terrifying. I think you would have also been able to imply more zombies if you had the masses in the dark. You know what I mean? I think back to the scene in the prison when the gates are caving in. So kind of a similar scene, and you have the flood of zombies coming in that one area, and Carl and Rick team up and machine gun, in a very kind of old zombie movie fashion, but it was scary and it was nerve wracking, and you had a sense of how many there were, was hard to tell, it just seemed endless in the dark. And, this to me, there were scenes, you were talking about the scene where they're coming around by the pond. And to me, they didn't look like the horde of ants. You know what I mean? It didn't look as massive as I wanted it to look. You know, it didn't look like the quarry.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and if it had been at night, I think the whole thing would have been a lot scarier. But
yeah, that's a good point.
But I could be not remembering too from the book, because I think they stayed in houses for a period of time in the book, and like till nighttime or something. I don't remember, but
well, my whole thing about this being staged in the first place is why do we have people on the wall? What are these people doing standing on the wall with rifles? Okay,
right.
Now last episode, I think it was either just last episode or it might have been two episodes, but at least for one episode now, we've been seeing that church and that tower crumbling, cracking,
Right.
dropping crap. All of a sudden, at the end of last episode, it comes tumbling down and takes a wall. Kirk, I think we talked about it earlier. Rick and the guy with the workout gloves are putting up. They're pounding up wood to fortify a part of the wall.
Yeah, they got a little hole. They got like a pinhole, freaking pinhole with a little bit of blood coming through, and they're like panicking and building this whole freaking sheetrock thing or whatever, scaffolding. Meanwhile, the freaking tower is like tipping and turning and falling and cracking.
Yeah,
I was going to say the building is cracking.
Yeah,
yeah, and no one's going. I hear something bad.
I see something too.
So for me. I had a big issue with just this whole thing happening to begin with. All right. So I guess we're on to the bad part. So
we might as well move on to the bads. You lead out, man.
All right. All right. So sit down because this could take a while. All right. Where do we begin? All right. So I had a problem with that. I had a problem with. All right. So let's go to Morgan and Carol, because that was another one that kind of stuck out in my head. First of all, am I missing something? How did she get this concussion? Was that from tripping and falling on the way?
Yeah, but I think she was.
I think that's what it was
lying.
supposed to be. Yeah.
I think she was just fibbing so that she could. Yeah.
Okay. So.
Okay. Was anybody else bothered that Morgan was so faked out?
That he was.
No.
It bothered me that he was so easily faked out. But go ahead.
Yeah, there was that too. But I mean, that whole scene started off with him saying something like, "You don't trust me," or do you, or something like that. And she's like, "No, I don't trust you."
Right, you're the last person I would go to.
You're the last person I would trust. I don't think you were lying, but I don't trust you. And I have a problem with that. And I got a problem with that because why don't you trust him? Like, if anybody if there's anybody that's black and white, it's Morgan.
That's a pretty good point. I mean, if you're looking for someone to preserve life, who but Morgan, right?
You know where he stands at all times. Like, it's not gonna. So when you look down and she's got the suspicion that he might have, he's got somebody down there, in the basement. Yeah, you kind of know that he probably does, and he's. So this whole not trusting him. If anybody that you can trust, it's going to be him.
Right. You may not agree with his motives, but you can trust.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So then we get this scene where Carol breaks in and we see the doctor, she's such an adorable character, and I really like the actress. And I love. Why is she alone, locked in the room with this wolf? Like, why? And then Carol busts in, and then we got the Morgan-Carol standoff, and that was kind of cool. But Morgan's standing with his back to the wolf. Carol, and then they get their little fight on, and then, I mean, it was everything that happened in that scene you kind of knew was going to happen, right? Like, there was no way that the wolf wasn't going to stand up and knock somebody out. And okay.
Right.
All right. So that wasn't very intelligent, but Carol and Morgan being down there in the first place, I get its emotions and also. All right, so I'll let that go. Then we get Eugene and Tara and Rosita come in, and the wolf, he now has all their weapons, right? He has the Morgan's or Carol's gun, and he's got a hostage. This guy's the worst wolf ever, because isn't his whole purpose about like the wolf? You guys are all going to die, and we're going to be here. We're going to kill you all. He had 3 people. He made them drop their guns. He had 4 people, 1 in his arms, 3 other people. Why didn't he shoot them? Like, what was that all about? One of the moments that
maybe Morgan's getting to him.
Well, that's what other people were saying, and I've got to echo what was said on another podcast, which is he hasn't even been with Morgan for a whole day.
Yeah. And I get like I would get him kind of taking mercy on the doctor. What's her name?
Denise.
Denise.
Okay, so I can see him having mercy on her, and you know what? Fine, I can see that. But I see him capping everybody in the room and leaving her alone and walking out. Now, where I think that a moment was horribly lost here was a really great moment to really make something in this episode was when you see where the camera was set up and you see you're basically like looking kind of over the wolf's shoulder at the 2 girls, the 2 women, and then Eugene in the background holding the machete, right? Go back and watch the episode again and look at the look on Eugene's face when he tells them he's got a gun to the doctor's head. Now remember, Denise and Eugene, they kind of had a moment, right? There was like a little bonding moment between the 2 of them, right? So he's got kind of like this friend, this kindred spirit almost. There's not an attraction, like a physical attraction, but there's like that little camaraderie type thing. When now the wolf's got a gun to her head, and then he gets the other girls to drop their guns, the look on Kirk's face. The look on the look on Eugene's face was, and I was like, oh my God, he's going to do it. He's going to do it.
When you look at Eugene, you see me.
We want a drawing of your mullet.
Not Rick.
So there's a look on his face like he's gonna this is it, like he's gonna snap, he's gonna bull rush the wolf and just cave his head in with the machete. I was like, this is Eugene's coming out moment. This is gonna be the moment when it's just like he's had enough and he doesn't. He just slides his machete over and does his, and I think that's a wasted moment for character development on Eugene. You had a chance to do something really cool with him and you let it go.
I am so totally going to talk about this in The Ugly, so I'm really glad you brought this up.
Yeah, I totally agree as well. I think not only was it a moment to have him rise up, but the precedent had been set. I think you and I talked about this the other day. Previously, for him to start stepping up more. When he had that moment when he saves Tara.
Mm-hmm.
Right, in the episode with Noah. Yeah.
Yeah, in Spend. And he found the courage, and from that point on, his character should have started to have that be a part of his personality, to start to be more confident and more. But then when even last week when we saw Rosita teaching him how to use the blade, he was just like this quivering jelly ball, And I totally agree. I think it was a chance. Instead, they just slid him right back to where he was.
Yep. And you even had a lead-in for it when he pulls out the little pin. He's like, lockpicking is, part of my skill set, which was just totally random. But but the randomness to it could have been like that precursor to that moment. So so that whole scene just kind of failed it for me.
And here's another thing. This is a small thing, but Tara also has an investment in Denise now.
Right.
She absolutely had a reason to not do what she did.
Yeah, right. I agree.
Right. Okay, so there's that.
And you mentioned too that once they did that, why didn't he just kill them all?
Right.
Right.
He said to Morgan last week, "I'm going to kill you and everybody in here."
Mm-hmm.
Well, and so what's the deal?
He ended up leaving there with a hostage, with all the weapons, and didn't kill anybody.
A single person. Mm-hmm. So, and what's the other thing? So he keeps making reference to, we're just freeing you. You're not supposed to be here. We're just freeing you. They're kind of like a doomsday cult. Yeah.
I think they're like a type of thing where they think their job is to kind of, to help get rid of all the rest of the living so that the zombies can continue to, to rule the world.
But we still haven't figured out why they were cutting bodies in half.
Right.
Yeah, no, we did, I think.
We did?
Yeah, no, you're right. We don't
I
know
mean, we
why,
saw them
why they're
hacking
doing it. Right. I
people
misunderstood
apart.
you. We saw all those bodies in the past in those episodes, like when we went to Noah's old subdivision,
Yep.
and all those bodies, and we saw. Now we know why they got like that, because they're chopped up from the wolves. But you're right. We don't know why they do that.
There was something else too that just slipped my mind. There was something else like we didn't know why they were doing. So when the walls come tumbling down, and all of our heroes go running, the other problem I had was that it just seemed like Rick and crew are seasoned veterans who've been on the road for X number of days, and they've seen everything. They come into Alexandria like a conditioned special operations force, right? And they've got these Alexandria people are the sheep, and these guys, they know everything. I can't be the only person who saw how they were like running and escaping and basically fleeing into the corners like they were rookies out of season 1. Maggie climbing the ladder is that's example A. Like, really? I mean, it was like those situations where they kind of put people in perils way just to kind of do it.
Just to put people in peril's way, to get us freaked out.
Yeah, and so I wasn't buying it. Like, I was like, these aren't the people that we've known. These aren't the people who escaped from Terminus. These aren't the people that we've known for like a couple seasons now. These were rookies. So I had a problem with that. Let's see, another thing. Anybody else think it's a bad idea to look? I get that you've got respect for your leader, for Deanna. And oh my God, she's been bit. Oh, this is bad. You know what? But we really care about her. We really like her. We're gonna we'll just keep an eye on her, and we'll just we'll let her go in peace. I get all that. But anybody else think it's a bad idea that you leave her upstairs with the baby in the crib?
Although I do have to say, that moment where Rick went in and almost capped her because he thought she had turned, that was a nice moment. I liked that moment.
To me, that's just like the other moment you were just saying it. To me, it was like her on the ladder. Yeah, it was contrived to create just tension, as opposed to being a believable thing or being an integral part of the story. To me, that was it's. I just think that the writing was lacking on here. There was a lot of that. Well, we got to put in little stuff like this to get people nervous, because it's a mid-season finale.
And I'm going to piggyback on that because just how they shot the scene. First of all, it took him forever to get down the hallway, right? Because he's like looking at the door, and then what's that? The door where Judith's door is open, and then when he gets in and he sees Deanna like leaning over the crib. I don't know if either you chalk it up to like there's just that momentary disconnect in his head, but he moved pretty slow to kind of clear her out of there. Nitpicking probably, but again, for me it just
no. I don't think you're nitpicking at all, and I think that the other I think that the show itself has the evidence to support your theory, and that is watching Rick in that scene versus watching Rick in the scene where he kills. Who's the guy that
Joe, the claimer, Joe?
No. In this season, where the guy that's making too much noise after he gets bit, and he's going to call.
Yep.
Carter, right?
Carter.
Yeah.
He's quick. He grabs him. He starts holding him down, and then when he realizes he can't keep him quiet, he's bit. He's going to die anyway. He offs him. In my mind, he's coming down that hallway. He's terrified already. He's put 2 and 2 together. Mm-hmm. She could be zombified. She could be in here with Judith. He turns the corner. He knows she's bit. She knows she's going to turn at some point. Turns the corner, sees her leaning over into the crib, caps her in the back of the head. Boom.
Okay, I gotta give you guys both that, because even though I liked the moment when she was like, no, it's still me. I agree. His immediate reaction would have been... I'd be
coming down that hall with my gun out.
Yeah.
I'd be turning the corner. I'd see her down on her knees in the crib. I would not be waiting to go find out. Because she's going to turn either way. It doesn't matter whether I kill her now and save my kid, or whether I, risk that maybe she's okay and then end up, having the kid get bit. So that to me, and he seems pragmatic at this point. Maybe, they're trying to say he's changed, but I don't think so. I think he's still the same guy that was in that episode with Carter.
The I thought that, look, I like Tova Feldshuh as an actress, but I just thought that, and this was like her swan song episode, but it was just too much between her and Michonne, and it felt like there was a message going on there that I was missing, or why are we perseverating on this like so much? So it felt just too drawn out. And then another missed opportunity, I think, is again. Let's go to the final scene there, and they're all walking through through the walkers, and they're getting through the crowd, and it's tense, and but it's not really tense because we know that they're all lathered up in goo, and they're gonna get through it. But at the end, again, if we go back to Invasion of the Body Snatchers finale, when they walk through and it looks like they're going to get away, and remember, all the walkers, they're on their way into the house. The Scooby Gang is on their way out of the house. And when Sam looks up and he goes, Mom, one of those walkers, at least one of them, should have like turned his head and looked at the kid. Now you go to black. Where you went to, where you did your fade out before, it was just him talking to the mom. We all know that, well, someone's going to die because of it. But add the tension on that final scene. Have that walker turn and look and, clock those guys walking out. Now oh, crap. Now we get to sit until, Valentine's Day going, holy crap, who's going to die when we get back? So for me, again, I just thought that was a lost opportunity to really amp the tension on that final part, and I think it would have capped the episode a little bit better. So those were my big ones.
Kirk, you want to take it, or you want me to go for it?
I think I fell asleep. I'm sorry.
It is just like the old days.
I had a bunch, but most of them we covered. So I've got two more. Okay. So last week, Glenn goes through freaking hell, gets Enid, saves her, gets all the way back to, gets to the Alexandria's outside the gate. And then boom, we're on to this week. Whole episode goes by. Nothing happens with them. They have a conversation about going in and trying to help. And then basically he stares over the fence and sees Maggie. I'm like, really? You can't see again, like to me, that's part of they obviously have got all of the action of this scene of this sequence planned for the beginning of the second half. And so as a result, they brought him all the way there and they had nothing for him to do because none of the real action was going to happen. You know what I mean?
And again,
that's frustrating.
And again, where's that veteran status of Glenn? What were they doing before this? They were making noise and drawing walkers out, right? So if he sees that they're all going that way and they're all inside, wait, right. I'm on the outside. I can draw them out possibly.
Right.
Where was that thinking?
Yeah, exactly. And then the only other one was that, one of the things that Jeff and I got really excited about, I think, in the last year or two, in talking about the show was how it had gone. And I attribute a lot of this to Scott Gimple when he started taking over as the showrunner. The show got a lot less preachy and a lot less tell you, and instead became show you.
Show you, yeah.
And I much prefer show you than tell you. And it seemed like we were getting a lot of preaching and a lot of speeches, and in a mid-season finale where the whole wall has just fallen down and they're invaded by zombies. This is a crisis episode, an action crisis episode, on par with when they're bringing the herd through and the opening season opener and the herd breaks out. I mean, this is not the time to be having discussions. Here are Rosita and Eugene and Tara locked in this garage. Maybe, they're going to die and they're surrounded by zombies. Everybody else is surrounded by zombies. And instead of like figuring out, how are we going to survive the next hour and get out of here, they're talking about, the whole future of Alexandria. And I'm like, what? And then I agree with Jeff when, twice Deanna's having this conversation with Michonne and pressuring her, what is it you want? What is it you want? You know what I mean? And it's like, Hello, I'm Michonne. I want to live. I'm leaving your dead ass here. Get out of here. Shut up. I'm out. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like, what? I mean, the zombies are coming up the stairs and she's like, trying to think about, wow, what does she mean by that? And I've got to think about that. And no, you got to think about surviving right now.
Right.
You know what I mean? So to me, that was and again, that, I think it just may have been, the particular writer that they had this, but I mean, I'm sure obviously everybody had to sign off on it, but, they were trying to tie up a lot of messages, I guess, throughout the season, first half of the season, and also set up some stuff for the future. But I just didn't think this was the episode to do that in. They had 2 or 3 episodes prior, that were kind of a little bit slower. They could have had those discussions then.
So this is kind of building on what you said, Kirk, but I agree. I think that the error is they've shifted all of the important action to the opening of the second half of the season.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you're right. I think that's where they lost the impact of this episode. I just want to kind of build on a little bit in terms of what Jeff had to say about bads. So my whole bad was, when did everybody get so wimpy? I mean, Rosita and Tara just immediately surrender their weapons. They don't even think twice about giving up their guns. They could have easily dropped a headshot on that guy.
Yeah, I thought that's what was going to happen. I thought Tara was going to blow him right off the face of the map.
And she demonstrated that she can. She did that last week when Spencer had his little "I'm going to climb the wire" episode. Yeah. So I was really disappointed in that. I felt like that was not characteristic of the group. The other thing that really bothered me in terms of asking when did everybody get so wimpy is that the whole plug-in scene with Daryl, Sasha, and Abe at the end, they got out of a running vehicle without any protest. They gave up their weapons. They could have easily just run those bikers over because they knew even before they got out of their vehicle that those bikers had it in for them.
I agree with you. And my first instinct when I saw that sequence was, I would just put the pedal to the metal and just plow right through those guys.
Exactly. But they've got machine guns and they've got a huge truck.
There's one major thing I think you're not thinking about.
No, I think you're going to go there. The fuel.
Yeah, that truck is full of fuel. All they start taking bullets into that fuel tank, they could go up like a freaking Hiroshima, But
you've got 3 monster badasses. You've got Abe, Daryl, and Sasha, 2 machine guns, and a huge truck. They could have totally run over those guys. So I just felt like our group, I agree. I mean, there was no reference to their veteran status at all. They could have totally turn things around with their experience, and they didn't. They just caved in front of all of these threats, and I thought that was really weird.
Good point.
So Brian's bad. Let's see. He didn't like Carl covering for Ron. He said Carl covering, then thinking he's going to shoot Ron upstairs, then no again. Just when you think it's game over, it's game back on and it's unresolved again. And I got to agree. I kind of put Carl and Ron in my bads because I really wanted to see what we were all looking for with Carl. Yeah, and we did get it, and I think we're gonna get it, but I think that probably in the mid-season or the second half of the season opener. Brian's other feedback: Ron and his stupid music box, "Tiptoe Through the Daisies" or whatever the song was, just playing way too loud, and they never went in there. I honestly thought he was hiding a walker or was going to be near death. He looked super sick and stressed. Too much stress and can't handle it, I suppose. So I want
to jump in for a second on before you move on too much more, because I want to respond to Brian's Carl thing. I disagree, and I'm going to argue that point a little bit more again. I think that, Carl, what this did for me by him showing him mercy, it did a number of things for me. One is it in terms of character growth. This is the same kid that shot that 16-year-old kid or that young kid at the prison without you know what I mean? Yeah. Without any hesitation. He was on his way to being broken at that point and had, was losing any kind of regard for life. And he's now grown through that and learned a lot from the people he's been around and from watching and everything else. And he's matured. And now he realizes, that that's not always the best move, and that he kind of represents by him showing that mercy, but being intelligent about it, taking the gun, anticipating that the violence is coming, therefore having the jump on him, and then taking his weapon and neutralizing him, and then showing him mercy. He's kind of exhibiting what the middle is between a Carol and a Morgan.
That's
you know what I mean? Point. And that if he had to, he would have killed him right away. There was no doubt in my mind he would kill him if he had to.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean? But he didn't have to. And he also understands that this guy's going through a lot of crap. He's just lost his dad, the whole hell in a basket, you know what I mean? And he's trying to have some understanding for what this kid's going through. It's not like he's the wolf, saving the wolf is retarded.
Right.
But, saving this kid has possibility for redemption.
Well, I think it helps too, is that it's kid and kid. It's not Carl dealing with an adult wolf or Carl dealing with an adult. He's dealing with a peer. He's dealing with one. So I think there's more of an understanding of the mindset of a kid there as well. So I think that lends a lot to that relationship.
Yeah.
So something you brought up for me that's so interesting, though, having just looked at this arc again in the comic book, and comic book spoiler here, this is the point where Rick is agonizing in the comic book saying, why am I working so hard to save my son's life? Because he is broken. So it's really interesting, just the departure from where Carl is right now, from where you're seeing Carl and from where Carl was at this point in the story in the book.
Right.
I'm just throwing that out there. I just thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, well, I think they've, the timelines of stuff in the book often get changed around and repositioned.
And Kirkman has always said this is a chance for him to do it over again.
Well, also, I think that, the killing of the kid at the prison was kind of comparable to, again, comic book spoiler, when Carl kills the brother, Ben. The two twins or whatever, or the cat killer or whatever. And, so timing wise, it makes sense that now he's kind of transitioned and grown and kind of, gotten beyond that. But, so it's interesting to compare them, but, it made sense to me.
Well, I'm going to use your favorite. I'm going to jump in just real quick here. I'm going to use Kirk's favorite word. So the juxtaposition of Carl now versus Carl shooting that kid outside of the prison. I'm glad you brought that up because I had not thought about that incident. I haven't thought about that in a really long time, and
By
I didn't.
The way, you can send
that.
You can send my royalty checks for the use of the juxtaposition to the following address.
All right, and I'm going to steal a thing from the other podcast that I work on. You can send any negative feedback to Brian Williams at NBC News.
Somehow, Kirk, you have to work juxtaposition into one of your tribute pieces.
Yeah.
Into the tribute piece for this episode. There you go, man.
Okay, so here's my crazy prediction. So again, it's just we
haven't done uglies yet.
Oh, we haven't?
Yeah, so this is going to be the longest episode in Biters history, probably. But yeah, we got to do our uglies, and then we can go to your crazy prediction.
Okay. All right. Well, my ugly doesn't take place within the confines of the show proper. My ugly was that 2-minute clip that came up in because it's part of the episode. That was awesome. As I'm listening to that guy talk, and he says, this what you've got here, it doesn't belong to you. I was like, say it, say the name. And then he does, and I was like, that was awesome. That was the best part of that. Because, yes, we read everything online, and we know he's coming at the end of the season, but it's been said now. Now it's a thing.
Yeah.
So that was mine.
So I had a couple of uglies, good and bad. So one of my goods was just the image of that zombie coming through with his jaw hanging off. We saw that zombie twice, and he was so great. I thought that was the best zombie in the episode. My other good ugly,
more fluoride.
My other good ugly, I actually like. Although I thought the interaction between Deanna and Michonne didn't have enough history to support it because I felt like the relationship was not built.
It should have been Maggie and her.
Right.
Oh yeah.
I did though like just the way that Deanna kind of gave her blessing and her benediction for our group to take Alexandria and move it forward. I thought that was a really nice interaction in that whole Deanna death spiral. So I liked that. That was one of my goods.
Yeah,
And I loved
I
her
did like the
reaction. I feel like
conversation.
she's
I did like the conversation between her and Rick. I didn't.
Mhm.
I didn't see the point in the Michonne one as much, especially not to do it twice. But I agree with
I
you.
think you're right.
I agree with you.
It would have been more meaningful. Sorry.
No, it's all right.
It would have been more meaningful if it had been Maggie. I agree. I think that's appropriate.
But I think the conversation with Rick was good, because especially when she was like, "Look, I didn't come out there to save you because you're a great guy. You know, I came out there because you're one of us. You know what I mean?"
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, and she finally explained her wrong answer comment from last
exactly
episode.
Yeah.
I also really liked, and I'm kind of obsessed with it, but the quote from Ovid where she scrawled it in Latin on the map, and she brings it up again as something that Reg would say over and over again, which is, "Someday this pain will serve you."
Right.
I liked the way they brought that into the episode. So that was definitely part of my good ugly. My bad ugly, I kind of threw the whole Ron Carl thing in there just because I didn't get what I was looking for, and we talked that to death. And then Sam's mom. That was definitely a bad ugly for me, because it's gonna lead to a major storm on the other end of the episode.
Yeah.
On the other half of the episode that we're getting in like 6 months, 4 months, whatever.
My uglies, I had two. One was good. I agree with Jeff. The Saviors scene I thought was great. I did kind of have a hard time believing that they would necessarily stop and give up everything. But at the same time, when I think about the fact that, they get a bullet in the back of that truck while they're in it, they're going up like a ball of flame. So, plus, our people are rational, reasonable people. And, especially even, Daryl kind of dealt with the claimers. He kind of, their philosophy is kind of first listen and find out and understand before they act, and I think that, that's consistent with them as a group. They don't just go charging in and shoot everybody up and then ask questions, so they wanted to find out what was, what was going on here. But anyway, I love that scene. I love the introduction and I thought that the guy that played that part was great. And I loved his, like Jeff said, the whole thing about what they didn't own, even when he was like,
the corn under the seat.
Yeah, the corn under the seat, the half-used tissue pack, and the gum in the glove compartment. I thought that was great. So that was my good ugly. My bad ugly was actually nothing to do with the episode. The bad ugly is the Fear the Walking Dead Flight 462 installments.
Yeah.
I've only caught a couple of those, so
I applaud the idea, and I think it's great that they're trying to do something different and unique and keep people thinking about Fear the Walking Dead, and that was great. But for me, they were too short, impossible to kind of get into in that short of a period of time, especially the way that they did it. They built slow, and you can't have a slow burn in a minute or a minute and a half installment. It's got to be a super fast burn. You know what I mean? It should have been happening at staccato pace, and in my opinion. And then also it just seems, it's like that they said one of the cast members is going to join the Fear the Walking Dead when it restarts, but it's so obvious that it's going to be the kid. You know what I mean?
Do you think it's going to be the kid, or do you think it's going to be the Asian lady?
No, I think they really have focused on the kid from the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think my guess would be that. So, and to me, that I would rather have them introduced, half a dozen new people and made us care about all of them, and then, be disappointed when our guy didn't survive. You know what I mean? But I just think that it was a great opportunity and a great idea to do this, but I don't think it was executed well.
I do have to say, since you brought it up, it appeals to the retired ER nurse in me, I'm sure, but I loved resuscitating the zombie. I actually thought that was really cool when they resuscitated that guy and he came back as a Zed. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see. So I just want to read Brian's ugly and then we can move on. So Brian says, "Ugly Morgan, I hate you. You suck. You ruin everything, and now Tara is going to lose another girlfriend." His continual stubbornness was increasingly frustrating to the point where I was yelling at the TV. And then he says that his ugly actually belongs to Negan.
So Brian runs a little negative, huh?
So I tend to rate a little more like you, Kirk, and Brian tends to rate a little more like Jeff. So we're trying to keep that balance.
Oh, I gotcha.
He says that his ugly actually belongs to Negan. He says the 2-minute short felt forced. Pressure from the comic book fans are forcing the storyline into the show way too fast and too early for my taste. Is Daryl going to die at the bat? Well, I kind of want to take that. I don't think it was forced. I actually liked it, aside from, feeling like our hero was kind of wimped out. And I think there's a good possibility that Daryl may be the person who introduces Negan to us ultimately.
Okay, so that's a great that's a great opening for me. So
okay, go.
Okay, so we know that Negan basically gets introduced to us by his relationship, we'll call it, with Glenn, right? So
never heard it called that before, but okay.
I'm trying to keep it opaque for those who don't know. Okay, so and a lot of people, and we've seen the foreshadowing. We had Glenn with the baseball bat in the community. People thought that that's why Glenn has come back. Okay, I don't think it's going to be Glenn, and I don't think it's going to be Glenn because, well, that's obvious, and that's just what everybody's expecting. And I think that, and I don't think it's going to be Daryl, because I think that of 14 million people that are watching the show, 9 million of them are females who are watching it for Daryl. And I don't think they're going to get rid of that cash cow. I think that when Negan shows up, that, again, remember, in the comic book, Negan is a character who's very people savvy. He's sociopathic, sure, but he reads people really well. When you come in,
that's what sociopaths do. So yeah, right. Absolutely.
So much better than the governor. And so when Negan comes in, he's going to take the temperature of these people who are, basically it's like join me or die, right? So the quick temperature on all these people is the one person. Well, you're going to want to take out the person who's going to give you trouble, the one who's going to stand to you, right? So my guess is the person who's going down is Carol. And furthering this is something that we had talked about, or Kirk had talked about earlier about in this episode, this podcast, where Carol has gone so far. She's so far to the extreme that it's basically like everybody's going to die. And if you're in my way, well, you're going to die too in order to make him die, blah, blah, blah. She's so far, she's so polarized now. There's no backing her down. There's nothing. There's no way that there's nothing that she can see, do, be exposed to that will get her to come back to the light side. Okay? Let's just call her a Sith Lord. She's bought the Force hook, line, and sinker. She's done. Morgan, on the other hand, if some people are thinking that maybe Morgan's going to die. Morgan, on the other hand, he's like in the middle, like he's staunch. I shouldn't say in the middle, but he's staunch in his beliefs and his morality. But there's wiggle room. If he keeps getting exposed to this way of the peaceful way, and it doesn't work, I can see Morgan going back towards a more violent way. So he can change. Carol, she's done. That character cannot evolve anymore. I don't even think she can become. If she becomes even more, goes farther in the direction she's going to become Negan. She'll become the governor. So I think that given that her character has no more growth to it, A, and B, if Negan comes out and he shows us, it's his way of showing us like how smart he is, and we really need to be afraid of this guy. My guess is Carol goes down.
I like that. And I think you're right. I mean, when I look at it, it makes sense that Morgan has room to wiggle to the middle. Carol does not have room to come back where she was previously. I agree with you completely.
So we'll see. That's
I like that theory. I mean, you mentioned it to me the other day, and it hadn't occurred to me, but I think it's a good theory. I think I like the logic that she's kind of progressed in her character and reached kind of the top of her arc. And it wouldn't make sense for her to kind of come back from that unless there was an extended period of time where she didn't, she was able to relax and live in safety and become, accessible or break that exterior, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. So that it's a great theory. I also think I've read many times that her character was supposed to die almost like every season for the first 3 seasons or something.
Right, she had to fight to come back from when she disappeared in the prison, right?
Right, but also that they had planned to kill her in the first season, and then they really liked her character, so they kept her, and then they were going to kill her in the second or third season, I guess, or in the prison when they first get to the prison, and then they just decided that she was getting really good and just too rich to write for, and they had all these other plot lines they could do with her and stuff. So it could be her turn, could be her time.
Just a little bit more is you want somebody to be kind of like a sentimental favorite, right? You want somebody that's going to be even money's on Glenn, but Carol. I mean, Carol's she bailed him out of Terminus. She's had great utility for with this group for so long, and I think that again, if I was writing it, we know everybody's going to be on their knees, and I think that if I was writing it, I would have this moment where all of a sudden Carol gets it, like right before that, 2 seconds from the end, it's like all of a sudden the dawning, right? And everybody's like, oh my God, blah, blah. And all of a sudden you see her eyes like she gets it. Like, holy crap, this is, she's going to be the victim of everything that she propagated. Yeah. She is now she is going to sow what she has reaped.
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
And now everybody watching this episode will go, oh, damn, and like cry for Carol.
Yeah.
That's it. Gimple, call me. I'm available.
And the other thing is, quite honestly, I mean, when you talk about a sentimental favorite, there are a lot of people who have watched Carol's arc and who so strongly identify with her because she went from being very powerless to now very powerful. Yeah. I think there are a lot of people who are very attached to that character.
Yeah.
Well, so predictions from Brian. He says Sam is going to get 3 people killed. He says his foot and mouth moment was, he said 8 to 10 people were going to die in this episode. And yeah, I got to agree. I kind of bought into that too. So that was my foot and mouth moment.
Well, it's not. It wasn't a bad prediction. I mean, it's the mid-season finale. You'd have expected it.
Yeah. Maybe it's going to be the season opener instead.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the opener.
But all right, we've got some feedback. Where do you guys want to go from here?
Well, I want to do. I got a few predictions. I got a few crazy predictions to add. I still think it's going to be Glenn.
You do?
I love Jeff's theory. I think that it makes a lot of sense. I think from a story point of view, it would be really good. But I still think it's going to be Glenn. And I think that that's why they went through all of this hullabaloo with his, not being in the credits and him being, so obviously, portrayed as dead, but then not dying. And it was, it's all to kind of like get us in a position where we think, well, they're not going to have Glenn because they just went through all this stuff with Glenn, you know what I mean? Or he's not going to get through all that and then go out like this. So I think they're trying to distract us or make us look the other way so that they can go ahead and do it that way. Cause it was too, they didn't want to be so predictable to the book, but I don't know. That's just my gut feeling. I think that, there was a little bit of a clue in this episode, about another person I think is going to die in the opener. And that's, Father Gabriel. And
we can all hope.
Yeah. Right. Well, I thought it was interesting that he turns to Rick just before they go out and he says, no matter what happens out there, I'm not turning back. Mm-hmm. And he said, Rick, I want you to know that I'm in this now and I'm not giving up and I'm not going to turn around. And Rick says, I know, as if they've kind of reached an understanding finally, you know what I mean? And to me, that kind of put the nail in the coffin for him. But that's just a guess. I think in the comic, he goes down this. Oh no, he survives.
No,
it's Morgan. Yeah, it's Morgan in the comic, I think, right? So And I wouldn't be surprised if Morgan goes too, because in the opener or early in the next half of the season, because I don't think Lenny James is going to be on board for a long time, unless he just decides to go out on his own and be a drifter again or something, because he can't deal with, with the way that they're living life or something. But
oh yeah, this has to wear him at some point. Has to wear him down. He's got to be like, y'all are nuts. I'm better on my own with my bow staff.
There's some people who have predicted that he will become the Ezekiel for the TV show. That he'll go off and start his own place, the kingdom, and become the Ezekiel of the show. But it doesn't seem like there's enough time for that to happen.
Right.
I can't see him having that kind of hubris.
I can't see him with dreadlocks.
I just can't see someone who's embraced Aikido and who, is redirecting energy and not killing people and blah, 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 then saying, oh, by the way, I'm the king of the kingdom.
Yeah.
Morgan's not a leader type. Like he's not he's not a follower, but he just doesn't have that leadership aura about him.
You think we're going to get Sheba or what was the name of the cat? The
Sheba.
Sheba.
Yeah. Huh. I don't know. That's going to, that really falls into the Department of Suspension of Disbelief to steal something from Jason and Karen. I'm not sure that I can buy into the whole tiger thing.
Oh man, I so want that tiger.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. I want that tiger.
Oh, that's awesome.
God damn straight. And it better get a better death than it did in the comic.
Oh yeah, that was awful.
Horrible death.
Oh man, I'm not there yet. I'm going to call you out for a spoiler.
Sorry. That cat should have gone down, taking out a horde of zombies.
Well, I'm going to say my prediction is going to be that Deanna, Ron, and Sam are going to get it. I think it's going to go along the lines of the comic book.
Deanna's dead already.
Or not Deanna, I'm sorry. Jesse. God, why the hell did I say Deanna? That's weird.
Yeah.
So you think the whole
Although, you know what, though? That's interesting. Here's a thought. We don't actually see Deanna die. We just see her scream and jump into now you counted her bullets. So that this kind of throws a thing in it. But in the comic, the way that the situation goes down is it's Deanna's character who comes running out in the midst of the battle.
Right.
And pulls off a bad shot.
Yeah.
Well, unless no one else was counting bullets, which is very possible, she's out of ammo.
That sucks.
But I do think that Jesse, Ron, and Sam are all going to get it. I think we're going to see a similar arc.
I don't know about that, and I'll tell you why. I think Sam is toast. At least I hope he's toast. But I think Ron might stick around in order to continue this dynamic between him and Carl, and Eden come back, and Enid, come back, and then there, you got the whole love triangle there, and then I agree. I hope that Jesse goes. I think that would be I think that would be a strong death, and would be consistent with the book, which I thought was a powerful scene, the way it all goes down, but. But they finally kind of established a love interest for Rick. And it's really the first one since Laurie.
So there are people who suggest that Jesse is potentially the new Andrea. Spoiler for people who haven't read the comic book.
Yeah, but I think that's what we're looking at. That's what I'm looking at. Yeah, and I'm disappointed because I would rather have seen Rick hook up with Michonne. Mm-hmm. Or even Sasha, although now it looks like Sasha and Abraham are going to be a thing. But
I think Abraham is toast.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But she and he are starting to have something kindle, Mm-hmm. And
boy, won't Rosita be surprised when they get home.
Right, she's all mourning Abe in this episode, and she's pissed.
So I think Jesse might be along for a while, and I don't have a problem with that, other than the law. To me, there's so much of this storyline in the comic that got diluted in this episode, and potentially if they keep her and stuff like that'll be diluted, and I'll be disappointed. But at the same time, it's time for him to have a relationship of some kind. he's our main lead character. That's how you find out more about a person. That's how you have them character development and everything else, to see them interacting with somebody and being emotional and in a relationship. So,
and sex calms a man down.
Abraham knows. A man just knows.
Such a feminist.
Hey, I'll burn my bra right now.
You're wearing one? I didn't know.
I'm shocked you're letting everybody know that you wear women's underwear. I'm impressed.
So I'm looking at Thomas Reese's input, and I saw that his crazy prediction is Abraham dying in episode 609. Is that the next one, 609?
Yeah, 609.
So he thinks Abraham buys it next one.
I think Abraham's going to buy it too.
What if it's Abraham that meets Lucille?
Could be.
Do you think they're going to wait that long? Because I think Lucille's coming in at the end of the season.
Yeah, I think so too. They might, because they might want some baby mama drama between Sasha and Abraham and Rosita.
I was just thinking back to what you were saying about Jesse and Rick needing a relationship. I think he's going to be a hell of a lot more tortured if he loses somebody right at the beginning of a relationship. So I think we might see some agony there.
No,
so I don't know. Do we want to bust through some?
Wait a minute, coming back to Abraham, I'm really getting on and getting into this whole prediction thing, man. It's like more than we're spending more time on all these crazy predictions than we did the actual episode analysis. Abraham will. I hope that would be awesome if they had Abraham go the same way that he does in the book.
Mm-hmm, I agree.
And think about it, because we've met Dwayne, and Dwayne's now got Daryl's bow.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be awesome if the next time we see Dwayne, that's what happens?
That's what I want to see.
Dwight, sorry. Dwight. Yeah. That would be cool. Okay. So letters, is that what we're doing?
Yeah, I think we could go ahead and bust out some letters. You want to take the first one, Kirk?
Sure. Let me open it up here.
All right, I'll
so
go.
We got Gary Dombrowski. I'm sorry. You want to go first?
No, go ahead.
I know it's hard. It's hard.
Interested in moving it on, man.
Yeah, it's hard to wait for us senile old guys. It's tough. Gary Dombrowski wrote in and said, "Unfortunately, the 2 episodes before the mid-season finale were a snooze fest, and the mid-season finale not much better. There were good moments here and there, but not enough to make them better. Better than okay episodes. Better than okay episodes, in my opinion." So Gary's pretty much on board with us here.
So Laura Willie Swink, she says, "If I'm not too late, here's my good, bad, and the ugly."
Hi, Laura.
Hey, Laura. She also rates it a 3 out of 5, and she and I were on the same wavelength about the meat ponchos. So she says it was a solid episode full of action and emotion, but compared to other mid-season finales, it was just okay. Goods, I'll miss the fiery little pistol Deanna. She gave her words of wisdom to Michonne and Rick, and then went out like a boss, taking several walkers with her. As they would say on Game of Thrones, she died a beautiful death. Number 2, Maggie actually surviving. I thought after taking out her father in season 3 and her sister in season 4, The Walking Dead was going to have a Green family triumvirate and kill Maggie off. But she and baby Gleggy, which I think is funny, are both alive for now. The bads, both Morgan and Carol. I like their badass standoff, and they're both to blame for the wolf's escape. And these 2 characters are way too extreme in both of their philosophies. So there you go, Kirk. I'm getting fed up with all of Morgan's naive, all life is precious rhetoric and Carol's kill first, ask questions later attitude. Since The Walking Dead returns on Valentine's Day, can these 2 warriors have a good long talk with each other, find some middle ground, and hug it out? Number 2, I was really...
Nope. Not going to happen.
I was really beginning to enjoy this episode when it suddenly ended. Like I saw in an online comment, it's like having sex with no climax. That
is the worst sex.
I guess we have to wait for February for that one. Longest foreplay ever. Which is not necessarily bad. My uglies are my 2 favorite lines from the episode. Lockpicking is within my skill set, and well, shit. Welcome back, Kirk and Jeff. And Brian, didn't mean to throw any shade your way. Very glad you're here and keeping biters afloat. Consider it biters hazing.
Nice.
Yeah, she always has good comments.
All right, Marnell, just catching up on my podcast. Hey, just because I miss Herschel doesn't mean I don't like Abraham. Diane calling me out for missing Kirk. Maybe it's
sister.
Maybe it's sort of appropriate that on a show that has an ever-changing cast of characters season after season, so too its companion podcasts require fresh meat for the grinder. I think you're right about the fate of Glenn. Oh God, are they really going to do that to Maggie? But it will probably be really good for her as a character in the long run. She'll be someone that is not burned by the fire but forged from it. Someday this pain will be useful to you. I've seen the idea tossed around that Daryl will fill in for Glenn in that fateful scene. I really don't think that'll happen, but I'm not going to rule it out. And if it does, get your riot gear ready. I really just have one gripe about the mid-season finale, and it actually stretches back to when the Walkers arrived at Alexandria. 3 to 4 years into the zombie apocalypse, have we not learned to not let them build up against the fence? Seriously, stand up on one of your little watchtowers, put a knife on a long stick, and start poking them in the head. Okay, and one last thing. Sam, shut up and look at the flowers.
That's great. Thomas Reese wrote in, it's been a while since writing, so I'd like to start off by thanking both of you for carrying on the show. You guys are doing a fantastic job, and I hope you stick with it. Diane, what's up with that off-season retrospective?
So I put some stuff on Facebook today so people can take a look at that.
Excellent. I'm giving a start to finish a respectable 4.5 murdered father insults. I'm organizing a church group with Father Gabriel to pray that Ron and Sam suffer an agonizing death in the mid-season opener. That was funny. You better get somebody else to host that thing, because I think Father Gabriel's toast. The goods. The opener was great. The symbolism of the ants getting through the walls and devouring the cookie was a little heavy-handed, but I went with it. The music was creepy as hell, and I love Sam's picture. I guess Carol's threat still weighs heavy on the poor kid. I smiled at the owl statue and the broken window theory callback. I wonder if they would have just listened to Rick and just killed Pete and never broken that window, if we'd still be faced with our current situation. The final scene was a nail biter and another great callback with the bads. Why is Morgan so stupid? Not only does he defend the wolf from Carol, but he left the doctor locked up with him. That was the dumbest. Why? The only way this plays out in his favor is if that wolf alters a chain of events that ultimately saves the life of Judith. What? Ultimately proving his point. Oh, okay. Even if then he better hope Carol doesn't tell Rick what went down. There's no way that wolf is going to help save anybody.
No.
They should have made.
He'll just take more hostages.
Yeah, I don't even see where they're going with that. You know what I mean? It's like I don't really understand the point of that. You know what I mean? I mean, the purpose he served, I think, was to show to what extent Morgan would go, but how dangerous it was. But I don't understand why. You know, I don't know. I don't know where they're going with that. They should have made the sneak peek part of the episode. And since we're on the topic, why the hell didn't Abraham get out with the RPG? That is a great question.
Yeah.
Maybe they had it packed away, but that is a great, great question. Oh, I wonder if they'll do something with that. I wonder if like the guys will take the truck from them and then they'll blow the truck up with an RPG. That would be awesome. Which of course
cool.
then brings the wrath of Negan down on top of them. Yeah, that could be cool. Anyway, let's see. Since we're still on the topic, what the hell is Into the Badlands? Nobody gives a shit about that show. I have to wake up at 4 a.m. I don't have time to stay up until 11 p.m. But I did. I'm tired. The Ugly. Good Ugly. Deanna's final moments. Her dialogue with Michonne and Rick really got to me. She's a horrible shot, but she got out there and fought to defend Alexandria. She faced her fears and helped Rick to safety. Even in the very end, she didn't waste ammo on herself, but sacrificed the easy way out for the great good. Respect. Character of the week, Deanna. Line of the week. I know my dad killed your dad, but you have to understand something. Your dad was an asshole. That was a great line. Crazy predictions. Abraham dies in episode 609. Okay.
All
right. And then I guess. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to read Nikki Campbell Keith's.
Yeah.
She had responded to Brian, but she's got some interesting venting going on here. Brian, You crack me up. Your theories on the wolves being the privates in the Negan army was funny. I thought this episode was pretty bad. I had such confidence in Gimple in the beginning, and I think the first two showrunners were let go because their, quote, vision for the show didn't match up with what the suits at AMC wanted. I think Gimple lured us in with greatness like Clear and the season 5 opener. Now he's becoming a puppet of AMC. You cannot tell me that he actually thought a Glenn death fake-out was a good idea. And don't get me started on the last 3 episodes. AMC got exactly what they wanted. Press. Even bad press is better than nothing. I think their ratings even improved. But true fans know that lately this stuff has sucked. Gimple, and Nicotero as well, need to get it together and bring back the magic and original vision of the show. They are stooping to tired TV tropes. Seriously, Rosita could not hit the wolf guy from 10 feet away. And making us hate important characters. Looking at you, Morgan. I love the podcast. Keep up the great work. Wow.
Who was that?
Nikki Campbell-Keith.
Ah, Nikki.
That was some...
you go, girl.
That was some venom.
Yeah. She's pissed.
So
Thomas O'Mara, or was that what you were going to read?
Oh, no, I was just going to say in response to Nikki that I don't know. I had some good hopes for Scott Gimple too. And I think there's a chance it's going to turn around. I do, but
I can't believe you guys.
And I do. Okay.
There were a couple of slow episodes and then a finale that wasn't on par with some previous finales, but it's not like it was a horrible show. It was a good episode.
Even I'm not throwing him under the bus.
You reminded me of the other thing I was going to say, though, Kirk, which is that you are absolutely right. In the end, it's still the best damn show on TV.
Damn straight. Damn straight. And it's zombies 24/7.
My whole thing is I'm along for the ride. I may have things that I'm griping about, but this is a cool ride, and I'm along for it. I'm enjoying it.
Listen, every season has great episodes and not so great episodes and average episodes. And it's every season. And you kind of, it's kind of the par for this course. And, this season is no different. It started out really, really strong. I agree. And then it got a little slow in the middle. And, I think a lot of your perception has to do with whether you liked or didn't like the whole Glenn, storyline. Mm-hmm. I myself didn't have a problem with it. I thought it was kind of cool. It got everybody talking. It got me thinking. It got, I wanted to see him live. I wanted him to have a better death than that. But at the same time, you can't, you don't know what's going to happen with this show. It could, so to me, it was just a whole new experience. They'd never done anything like that before. I don't think they could do it again. That would be a huge mistake, but yeah. I don't fault them for trying, you know what I mean? Trying something different, trying something new, I don't know, but I think a lot of people once, if you didn't like that, then you were totally, dissatisfied with the whole season, I think. And I think for people to be like, thinking that Scott Gimple has lost his way, I think they've lost their mind. This shows this season still is so much better than so many of the other seasons. You know what I mean? And
so I've heard people say that they struggled with it because they went into expectations from reading the comic book. And I think that's an interesting point. I mean, if you go into, especially the mid-season finale with expectations of big things, and I know I did, I think that's part of the reason people are struggling so hard.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I understand that, but I would respond to that twofold. One is that it's clear that they've decided to save a lot of the big things that happened
for later,
Way Out, for the beginning of the next season. And, so the jury's still out on whether or not they're going to execute some of that. No pun intended. And then, and then the other thing I would say to that is that, they really are trying to develop, to give us what's happened in the book, but at the same time in a new and different way, and with some added characters and added direction and added storylines, so that for those of us that are religious readers of the book, it's still a new experience. Mm-hmm. And so that sometimes is going to fall short because, we want some of the things we really want from the book, are not going to necessarily happen. And sometimes they do. Or sometimes they happen in weird ways and different ways. And those aren't as good in our minds as they are in the comic. But I think that's, it's going to be hard for some, it's always going to piss some people off and please other people. There's definitely been things that they've done better in the show than they did in the book. But then there's been things that they've done better in the book. So, that's again a par for the course for a show based on a comic series. But I'll tell you, you can't take any other show that's based on a comic series, or even even movies that are based on comics, for that matter, and that have come even anywhere near what Walking Dead has in terms of following the story of the comic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Jeff, jump in if you think I'm wrong on that, but because you're an avid comic book reader as well as I am. And I can't think of any TV show based, that's based on a comic that has followed the comic as closely as this show has.
Yeah. No, they've done a great, and even when they've deviated, the fact that they've managed to bring it back to continuity with the comics,
right?
It's pretty impressive.
Right. I mean, even their fails, the governor in my mind was a fail compared to the comic, but that was a fail because of what they were trying to do. They were trying to take this one-dimensional character from the comic book and make him multidimensional. Because, once you're trying to bring him to life on the screen, you don't want him to look like a cartoon. Mm-hmm. And I think people better get prepared, because Negan is going to be richer in the TV show than he is in the comic.
Yep.
And a lot of people are going to hate that. They're not going to want to see, different aspects of it. They're going to just want to see, the cold, calculating, swearing, villain that they got in the comic. But that's a very, two-dimensional kind of image of a character. This has got to be much richer, much deeper. So you're going to see more of them, or more about them. And some people are going to like that. Some people aren't. So, I think that, I'm fine with being critical of the show within the context of, things that we like or didn't like. But I think, you have to always frame that. For me, I always have to frame it when I'm talking about it in the context of, or in the framework that I love the show, and that I think it's doing fantastic things. And I think it's a freaking behemoth in terms of success, mm-hmm. and cutting edge in a lot of respects. And I think, we feel that way about it as a whole. And that's why it's so frustrating when we feel like they're not maybe, hitting the note every time. But, it's still one of my favorite shows to watch.
And at the end of the day, it does all build. It's all important. Even the subpar episodes give us things that are going to be important in the end, important to the final story.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right.
Oh, wait
a minute. There was one other thing. Thomas O'Mara wrote,
okay,
so my Eugene on radio prediction was right. And that he's absolutely right. I did not see that coming. Someone else, I think, Thomas Celtic-So, at Celtic-So, who's an avid listener of Biters, also posted up his theory that was Eugene. Mm-hmm. And I just was like, I don't see where that's coming from at all. But that's, how bad I am at predictions. But that was the money. They nailed it. Let's see what else he says. He also predicted Diana would die. He was wrong on Eugene dying. Overall episode was okay. Would have been better if the 2-minute preview was the end of the episode, though I give it a 3.5 moms out of 5. It's cute.
That's a good way to wrap up, huh?
Yeah.
So, you guys, I'm so glad you came back.
Well, thanks for having us.
Well, thank you.
Are you going to do this again every now and then?
I think we may have to.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
Because otherwise, who else is going to record?
You just have to teach me what to do with more than 2 people on a phone call.
Just got to start about an hour earlier, so I'm not sleeping.
I'm kidding. You got to get the Alaskan when the Alaskan has a day off, man.
Well, Diane, I think, I want to echo Jeff's words earlier, and that, I think you're doing a fantastic job of carrying on the legacy of the show, and we really appreciate that. You really stepped up and took charge of it. I think it just would have most likely gone into obscurity if not for your efforts. So thank you very much, because we put a lot of time and energy into the show, and I know I speak for, at least for myself, when I say that it's great to see it continue. And it's nice to have a place to be able to go once in a while and rant about the show. So
it is awesome to have you both back. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's a privilege. I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Well, thank you.
And thank you to everybody who has continued to listen through the transition.
Yes.
And,
definitely stick with them, man. Stick with them.
Oh, a couple of quick things to go out on. So we do have, it looks like we're going to do a season 1 retrospective. We're going to cover all 6 episodes in season 1. Right now on the Facebook page, I'm asking people to weigh in terms of what their top 5 episodes are, because we'll do an off-season podcast on those top 5 episodes.
Well, that's cool.
Just want to encourage people to respond to that.
Yeah, definitely.
And
so you guys, it is late. It is late.
Yeah, it's about 11:30.
Yeah, and I know at least one of you has a long weekend ahead. So
yes,
I'm not sure what you're up to,
do.
Jeff. But
so if you hear this, if you're listening to this podcast sometime this weekend, and you can make it out to Meadowlands, right?
It's the Meadowlands Exhibition Center in Secaucus, New Jersey.
Stop by and harass Kirk, because
awesome,
he'll be the only one there. Celtic So might be there.
Yeah, Celtic So will definitely be there. Thomas will definitely be there.
So harass them both, and because Kirk likes that. So
yeah, and definitely check out Z-Girl and the Four Tigers, the book, the comic book that Jeff and I create, and that you can go to www.zgirl.org to learn more about that or get copies of the book. I tweet at BatmanKM, so if you want to read some boring, stupid tweets, you can follow me. And Jeff, you tweet at what?
At J Marsick. Mine are not as boring as Kirk's,
but much less frequently.
Yes.
They're rich and full and satisfying, but they're very, very infrequent.
Like dessert.
Exactly.
Mine are more like popcorn. Just lots and lots of little things that are kind of forgotten the minute after you've eaten them. So.
All right,
guys. It's great to be back. And
have a great...
we look forward to seeing you again or talking to you guys again soon.
Awesome. Have a great night and have a great time at Walker Stalker.
You too. Take care.
All right, bye-bye.
You too. Bye.